It's Brad Garrett joins us, ABC News crime and terrorism analyst from Washington, D.C. Good morning, Brad Garrett.
Good morning, McGraw.
All election, we heard and were told that Russia was hacking, and all of a sudden now, what's the story today? Now we know Russia was hacking. Fill us in on what's going on here.
Well, the intelligence community thinks that just because of so many things that they've uncovered, for example, McGraw, that the Russian civilian component, like the CIA that does hacking, that the military component, and also independent hackers that they've hired to hack into things like the DNC, like the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. All of these things have given them information about Democrats, and the belief is, even though the Republicans have denied it, that they hacked into the RNC, didn't release any of it. They also released information on Democratic House candidates in several states because of this hack into the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. And so they really, it looks like to almost everyone that's looked at this, a concerted effort to get to get Republicans into office, in particular Mr. Trump.
Okay, so did they just leak embarrassing things, or did they go in and change vote totals?
No, I don't think they did that. That's really difficult to do because that's such a local thing. What they're talking about, that they believe that they've influenced people's how they might look at a candidate, whether it be Secretary Clinton, whether it be somebody in Missouri running for a House seat or trying to get reelected. Releasing information like campaign strategies, which everyone has a right to have, but it doesn't do much good if they're in the public, because then your opponent knows what your strategies are. Those type of things. And the suggestion is they didn't do that to any Republican candidate. It's hard to walk away from that and not think that this was directed.
Marco Rubio has come out and said, I don't care that they hacked my opponents. I'm not discussing it because one day it's them, the next day it's us. But not everyone has taken that position.
No, and clearly, do we do the same thing that the Russians do? Of course we do. We've done it in other countries. Have we affected elections probably in years past, particularly in third world environments? The answer to that is yes. So, there's a bit of that going on here, but it's another to take on, a powerful country like the U.S. and basically perhaps had an effect on who gets elected.
If it's true, which intelligence officials say without a doubt it's true, isn't that an act of war in some sense, muddling with our elections?
It is. But to go back to what I just said, McGraw, we also do the same thing. The problem is the whole cyber world, and you and I have talked about this before, is that's where it all is now. That's where all of our information is. That's where they can alter information, steal information, fabricate information, etc. And so that is the future. But yes, to answer your question, could that be considered some form of espionage? Of course it could.
Donald Trump, during the campaign, encouraged the former Soviet Union, Russia, to continue to hack. Almost unbelievable that a presidential candidate would say that. But he has said that he doesn't necessarily believe that it's Russia. He said it could be somebody in the basement of their grandparents' home. Going forward, how is the federal government going to deal with this, or how should they deal with it?
Well, I think that between the federal government and the Congress, they're going to have to do an in-the-weeds investigation of this. I don't think they have any choice, despite what Mr. Trump thinks. And that's not based on detail. I don't know what that's based on, his comments, but that's not based. If you're a logical, rational person and you look at what they found, it's pretty hard to come up with any other conclusion. Now, you can argue that Mr. Trump would have gotten elected if the Russians hadn't done that. That could well be the case. I don't think anybody can say that they absolutely got him elected. But did they influence certain people just because of what was said, what was released? I think the answer is yes.
Well, or the fact that they tried, whether they succeeded or not, you can argue how successful they were, but that an outside government entity tried to influence our elections is a pretty a pretty outrageous allegation and a dangerous thing if true.
Exactly. And it goes to, because I've been asked this question several times this morning, McGraw. So what would be the motive? Well, the motive could be, Putin really dislikes Secretary Clinton, almost to the vendetta level, apparently. He also wants to make Russia much more powerful, have more businesses come to them in Russia. If he can make the U.S. look bad, in other words, talk about corruption, talk about that we're sort of disorganized, and then have somebody in the White House that at least verbally likes you, I mean, it's sort of a win-win for Putin.
Yeah, you wonder how the comments would be different if Russia tried to hack into accounts to be favorable to Hillary Clinton, what the reaction would be.
Exactly.
That is Brad Garrett, ABC News crime and terrorism analyst from Washington, D.C. Brad, good stuff. Thanks for checking in.
Take care, McGraw.
725, Big 550, KTR.